I feel like it's about that time that a lot of people have been focusing on their health and fitness since January, and they just might be getting to the point where they're thinking about summer and they're thinking about like, I'm not where I want to be, right? Like I wanted to be further along. I wanted to feel confident wearing shorts this season or a bikini or a little, sundress or whatever it is. And their frustration might be setting in because they think they're plateaued. And I thought I could do a little quick episode or a little mini training on what a plateau is, what a plateau is not, things to consider if you feel like you're having a plateau, and how to overcome it. Because one thing I know is it's probably the most frustrating thing for women when they are putting a lot of work in and they are mindful around what they're eating, how much they're eating, their exercise, like they have a game plan in place and they're consistently showing up with it. And then all of a sudden they're like, nothing's happening, right? Like I had momentum, I was seeing changes on the scale, I was seeing changes in my physique, I was seeing changes in the way my clothes fit me, and now I just feel stuck. And if you're putting time and effort and energy into something and you feel stuck, it might result in stopping the behaviors that ultimately would help you break through the plateau if you just looked at it from a different lens. So, on today's episode, I am going to show you how to recognize if you're really in a plateau and what to do to overcome it so you can keep getting the results that you deserve. Also, I just wanted to say, if you are coming back to the channel, thank you. Thank you for showing up, for always giving me likes on the video, for dropping comments below, letting me know your feedback on what you thought about the episode, what you want more of, what you want me to create more of. I'm happy to do that. And if you're brand new, welcome to the Angie Method. I am Angie, and this is my little space to share my thoughts and my tips and tricks around fitness, food, and fun. And so if you are new, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get notifications for super episodes, and welcome to the channel. Okay, I made notes today because I was like, I don't want to miss anything, because this is something in the Angie Method that a lot of women experience, plateaus. And what happens when you experience a plateau? If you're not aware of what's really going on, it causes frustration. And frustration can lead to screw it, right? Like if I'm not getting the result and I'm putting time and energy, effort into this, like this isn't worth the reward that I'm getting right now. And so you might stop the behaviors that just might have been the key to breaking through the plateau. And when you do that, you lose out on results, right? You lose out on results that might have just been right there had you known how to break through or how to look at your plan and the execution of it to get back in alignment to keep moving forward towards results. Or when that frustration does show up, it might lead to sabotaging type behaviors that maybe the old you used to operate from, right? Where the new you is already thinking about, this is the person I'm becoming. This is how I want to look. This is how I want to feel. And if I want to be that person and I want to look like that person, I do the things that that person does to have what they have. But if you experience a plateau and you don't know how to overcome it, if you're not aware of what's going on and you get pissed off, well, you might go back to how the old you operated, which could be those self-sabotaging behaviors. It could be resulting in just stopping type of behavior. It could be a result of overeating or binging or something that's going to pull you out of alignment. And again, that means you're missing out on results. Again, that means you haven't found how to be flexible in your everyday plan to keep having momentum and moving closer to the person that you want to look like and feel like. So what can we do with this problem of the plateau? Let's define what is a plateau and what is not a plateau. For an actual plateau, the way that we look at it, so I'm gonna do this straight up observation with data. If someone is being mindful of the amount of food they're consuming, right? So they know how much they have, the total consumption of the calories in. So they are scanning food into a tracking app. They are weighing and measuring it. They're not eyeballing it. They really truly have an idea of how much they're consuming. And they're also paying attention to what their weight is doing. So we're using the calories in, the amount you're consuming, versus what is the scale doing. If the scale doesn't move, now listen to this. If it doesn't move on the weekly average, not the daily weight, right? Because your daily weight is gonna go like this. In fact, if you missed my scale fluctuation video that explains why it's normal for the scale to do this every single day, go check that out. I'll drop that link right there in the description so you can watch that. That will give you a better understanding of why we only care about the weekly average. Weight is supposed to do this. That's normal. We wanna know week to week, based off the 7 weigh-ins that you have in a week divided by 7, right? What that weekly average is. If it doesn't move a half a pound or more for 2 weeks. So for 2 weeks, it's flat. Let's just say 130 is our number. It was 130 on week 1, 130 on week 2. No movement. We might be experiencing a plateau, but things to consider. It is only a plateau if there are no outliers and we truly know how much food is coming in. We're not guesstimating. We're not having bite, licks, and tastes that aren't being accounted for. We truly know the amount of calories coming in and no outlier. What does it mean, an outlier? An outlier could be something that's not normal in your week. So maybe you have young kids and all of a sudden for those 2 weeks, they were waking up way more than usual, and so you had very interrupted sleep, maybe like a 2-hour window in the middle of the night that you weren't sleeping. That's an outlier. That might be something that doesn't happen that often for you, and so maybe it's skewing the results on the scale, making you think it's a plateau where you could be losing body fat. It's just the scale is saying that it's not moving because you might be retaining water because of an inflammation from not sleeping. Maybe you're on your period, like your cycle. Maybe you have perimenopause, so you have hormone fluctuations. These are outliers. It's something that's out of your control that might cause water retention. It again does not mean you're plateaued. It just means that something's keeping water on your body, making the scale look like it's not doing any movement. However, you're probably still losing body fat. An injury, sickness, whether it's a virus or a stomach bug, all of those things are outliers. They're things that don't happen every single day in your normal routine, which can make you believe it's a plateau and it's not. So a plateau is actually when it's 2 weeks, no movement on the scale, half a pound plus. If my example, if you went from 130 to 125.5 the next week, that's not a plateau. You're still losing body fat. And so you need to recognize what a plateau is and what it is not, and use that, like that data collection. That's gonna help you look at things more logical with more reason behind it, less emotion. And so no outliers, 2 weeks, no movement on the scale, a half a pound plus. If it moves a half a pound on the weekly average, you're not in a plateau. If it does it 1 week, but not the second week, you're still not in a plateau. All right. Now, if that does happen and it's 2 weeks in a row and you've been paying attention to your food, you know exactly how much is coming in, you know what your weight's doing, there's no outliers, there might be some things you need to switch up in order to get through that plateau. So let's talk about things to consider first. So I just talked about the importance of knowing how much you're eating. So things to consider. Do you actually know how much you're eating? Not that you're eating healthy, not that you think you're eating less food than you normally do, right? All of those things are gonna help you, but do you actually know the number? You're not guesstimating, you're not like, oh, I've done this for so long, like I can eyeball it, it's about 1,500 calories. Like, no, do you actually know the number? Because if you don't and you're guesstimating, you might be over or under guesstimating by a pretty significant amount. A lot of people that come into our world and they've done this for a while, they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm good. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't think you're actually plateaued. I think we need to go back to the basics and just have you really get an idea of how much is coming in. And they'll be like, oh my goodness, I was under guessing or underestimating by a good 200 to 300 calories. That is literally the indicator of you're not in a plateau. You're just literally not eating for fat loss right now. Okay, so do you truly know, first thing to consider, how much you're eating? And if you don't, start there. All right, second thing, as I mentioned, Are you only looking at the individual every single day-to-day weight? And are you basing your plateau based off of, wow, I was losing really significantly every single day for a while, or even like every third day, and then all of a sudden it just doesn't move, right? Where it stays exactly the same, or even worse, when people freak out, you see it tick up a little bit. Maybe that happens on Monday after a weekend. Maybe it happens after a poor night's sleep. Maybe it happens after having a more calorie dense, higher sodium oil meal at night. Like, are you paying attention to the weekly average again, or the daily? Because if we pay attention to the daily, it will fail us every single time and make us think we're either stuck or going in the wrong direction. So pay attention to the weekly average. 3 more things to consider. Are you active? And what I mean by that is, a lot of people be like, oh my gosh, I'm so active. And I'm like, okay, show me the numbers, because numbers do not lie. Do you know what your activity level actually is? And I don't even mean in a quote unquote workout. How much do you move in a day, right? If you were to look at like a watch and you were to track your total steps, where is your movement at with that? Because the more we move, the more we burn, obviously, which could be, again, one of the reasons we might be considering, like, if we're at a plateau, how much movement are you doing? The next thing to consider, sleep and hydration. I kind of already addressed this, but if your sleep is out of whack, it could be a like physical stressor on your body, and a response to your body is water retention because of that inflammation. So it might look like it's staying stuck or even climbing because you're not getting quality sleep. So look at what's going on with your sleep. It's not a reason to stop what you're doing. You want to show up even more consistently with the things outside of your sleep, like what you're eating, how much you're eating, your activity level, your stress levels, your hydration, because again, you can still be losing body fat. You just might not see it on the scale if your sleep isn't getting if you're not sleeping to get the recovery that your body desires. And then hydration. If we are dehydrated, we can retain water. We can be dehydrated from drinking alcohol. We can be dehydrated from not sleeping well. We can be dehydrated from talking a lot and not drinking enough. We can be dehydrated from sodium, from different oils. And so if you're dehydrated, again, your body might retain water. And so it can make you appear that you're in a plateau, but you might not be. So we'll get to like how much water to drink to break through a plateau, but that could be another thing to consider. And then last one is, how long have you been eating less calories, or quote unquote in a diet, to lose weight? Because it might be a matter of you've been in it for too long, so you might be getting a little bit more relaxed. And what I mean by that is, people in our program, they'll be like, oh no, like maybe they've been going for like 16 weeks eating less calories to lose weight, and they're like, no, I'm still tracking it all. And I'm like, okay, like literally everything? They're like, okay, well, like I'm preparing my meal and like I take a couple bites while I'm preparing it, but like I don't actually track that. Or you know what, I kind of stopped putting like the tablespoon or 2 tablespoons of creamer that I put in my coffee. I stopped tracking that. Or it's just like random bite licks and taste. And so what that shows us is, psychologically, you might just be overeating less calories. And when that happens, we think we're in a plateau, but really we're just kind of eating above what we intended to lose weight because we're exhausted by it. And so we're like, oh man, like I'm just thinking about food all the time, so I'm just taking bite licks and taste, and it might just pull us out of that calorie deficit, meaning we're not necessarily plateaued, we're just actually now not eating for fat loss. Does that make sense? So pay attention to the psychological responses that you're having while you're eating less food. And it just might be your body wants a break from eating less food, or your mind wants a break. It's not necessarily plateaued. You just might not be eating in that range to promote fat loss anymore. So now you're probably wondering, how do I break through it, Angie? I have all these considerations. I know my behaviors right now, and I am in it to win it. Like, I'm consistently showing up. I still am paying attention to how much I'm consuming. It is all accounted for. I am pretty much a thriving individual when it comes to movement. Like, I'm moving a lot. I'm getting quality sleep. I have no outliers. Like, what do I do? If you are truly in a plateau, you can, number one, the easiest way to monitor that or to manipulate it is by decreasing your calories even more. I like to go at a moderate pace with that. So let's just pretend, all right, you had been eating at 1,500 calories. This is just a random number I'm throwing out there. Like, we do everything based off observation in our program. But let's say like 1,500, like you were losing steadily, and then all of a sudden you're like, nothing's changed, like literally nothing, and you've been plateaued for 2 weeks. I would say, okay, drop the calorie amount. It's the least amount of attention you have to put on anything, because you're like, okay, I'm going to take it from 1,500 and I'm going to drop it to 1,300. The amount you drop doesn't really matter. It just depends on how quickly you want results. And so I like to like pull numbers down by like between 100 and 300 calories, depending on the person and how much they can give to eating less calories. But let's just say you drop it from 1,500 to 1,300. Maybe you were having a banana. Great, that's 100 something calories. Easy, pull it out. Maybe you were having a lot of nut butter. You're like, okay, I'm gonna trade my 200 calorie nut butter for PB Fit. Boom, I'm already down 200 calories. It can be very easy to do. So that's the first thing. Decrease your calorie amount, but give it 2 weeks. If you don't see any changes on week 1, sometimes your body needs a good 2 weeks to know the stimulus you're giving it to adapt to. It might just stay at homeostasis and hold steady, and then all of a sudden the second week that you've created this new thing to adapt to, it's like, oh, I get what they're doing, right? Like, I'm gonna go ahead and drop more body fat because there's not enough calories coming in, so I need to take it from somewhere else. Ideally, if your protein's dialed in, that will target your body to take it from body fat, okay? So decrease your calories, but hold tight for 2 weeks, consistently showing up with that to see if you start to get the drop you want. Number 2, if you're like, ooh, I don't really want to eat less, but you're like, but I don't mind moving more, you can do that. You can also do a combination of both. You can eat less and you can move more. So you could look at like where your steps are in a day, and maybe right now you're moving 6,000 steps. I would add on another couple thousand to that, make it 8,000. Just that, like 2,000 steps they say is about a mile. Just another mile increase in your day might be enough to move the needle towards your fat loss and break through the plateau. So you can increase it through step count, or you can do aerobic cardio. I say aerobic because I'm trying to keep the stress on your body minimized. HIIT training, high intensity interval training, it can cause a little bit extra stress, especially for women, which might actually, again, skew the scale weight, meaning it might not mean that you're not losing body fat, but because it's a stressor on your body might retain more water. I'd rather you just focus on aerobic training, low intensity, steady state training, where you take your 180 minus your age, and that's about where you'd want your heart rate to stay. And if you just like maybe add in 3 30-minute sessions a week, that could increase your calorie burn without you having to take it away from food. But again, I'd go more of the list training to not put extra stress on your body so you don't retain water thinking it's not working and you're in a plateau. All right, so decrease calories or increase movement, or just add in some actual intentional cardio sessions. And then if you are someone who socializes more and you like to eat foods that have a little bit more sodium or use different oils when you're out at restaurants, be mindful of that and just increase your water intake. So I would take what you normally drink in a day and increase that by 1.5 to 2 times if you feel like your body is holding on to water, to flush water to see if it was a plateau or was not. And then the one that I know some people might have the option to do and some people might not, depending on the season of life you're in. Right now, I am in one where my boys sleep most of the night through. So I would increase the sleep amount that you're getting. If you're just getting like 6 to 7 hours right now, it could be a massive game changer. You wouldn't have to change your calories. You wouldn't have to change your activity level. If you just get another hour or 2 hours of sleep in, it might be exactly what your body needs to fully recover and to drop body fat. It's crazy. I've done this on myself before where I've changed nothing, but I've switched my sleep from 7 to 9 hours. And I like the recovery you get and the water that comes off your body and the fat that comes off your body is amazing. Now, every individual is different. I'm not saying that's going to be the game changer for you, but these are things to consider and easy things to try before you're just like, screw it, I'm plateaued. Okay, so those would be what I would focus on with that. And then there's other like stuff out there that says maybe just like switching up the structure or the way you do things might be enough to like break through a plateau. And what I mean by that is maybe you eat similar foods day to day. Maybe by just switching up those foods for different foods, and your body has to figure out how to digest and absorb and spend energy doing that. Energy being calories might just get you through the plateau. The times that you eat, so maybe you normally eat at 10, 2, and 4. Maybe you switch that up and you eat at 8, 12, and 6. Does that make sense? Where your body's trying to figure out how to adapt and adjust to these new stimuluses you're giving it. Maybe you switch your morning aerobic session to the afternoon. I'm not saying those things are like science-based. I've just played around with application, and you could play around with that as well. And the last thing might be, you just might need to eat more calories for a little bit, right? Where you might need to come from your calorie deficit or eating for fat loss and come back up to kind of re-energize yourself mentally, physically, give your body a break from lower calorie so it's ready to do what you're asking it to do in terms of losing more weight. Eating more food and going back to what you call maintenance, or you've probably heard of reverse dieting, it doesn't mean you're not getting results. Maintenance is progress, because we also have to learn how to maintain and sustain our results, and how to learn how to eat more food without gaining weight back. Because when you do that, the game of like, ooh, I want to be more fit and I want to lose more, and ooh, I want to eat more food and I want to maintain, it becomes very easy. It's just like, oh great, I want to tighten it up. I got a vacation coming. I have summer coming. I have a holiday season coming. Like, I'm already living this body I want to be in most of the time. Now I just want to see it level up a little bit more. I want to see it a little bit more fit, a little bit more toned. You can just go into your quick fat loss phase and come right back out. And so you're never really plateaued unless you actually believe that. There's always a way to come in and out of a plateau, and sometimes it just means you need to eat more food for a little bit, give your body a break and give your mind a break from eating lower calorie, allow yourself to then have more of the food you might want to eat more of when you have more calories available, give yourself a little bit more energy level, spend more time putting on more muscle, and all of that can help you break through a plateau. So that's what I have for today's episode. Would love to know your feedback in the comments below. If you have questions, be sure to drop them. I love answering those either over on Instagram in my stories, or in a reel. I'll answer your questions, or I'll save it and do another YouTube episode, or I'll put it up in the podcast. If you are wanting to learn more about how you could be in your dream body and how you can do it easily and effortlessly in an enjoyable way, I will be hosting a free training on Thursday night, 6 p.m. Central. Welcome for anybody to join. I do these on Zoom though, because I like them to be a little bit more interactive. It's actually like your opportunity to be coached by me in a group setting. And so people I ask, come prepared, pen and paper, ready to share with me like where your struggles are, what your wants are, what your needs are. I engage like in the Zoom training, and I ask you like what you need so I can help you figure out the exact strategy to help you. And if you are like feeling like you're in a plateau and you want some, tips and tricks, like this webinar might be exactly what you need. But again, it's open to anybody who wants to be in a better body and mind than they are right now and need a strategy to help them get there. So I'll drop that link that you can register below. If you can't be on live, yes, it's recorded. You do need to register, so I can email out the recording though the morning after. Okay, that's all I got. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Chat soon.